Bonjour à tous et bienvenue dans Boomerang. Mon invité d'aujourd'hui a plus d'un sort dans sa tête, dans ses cordes vocales et au bout des doigts. Voilà bientôt 30 ans qu'il nous envoûte littéralement, seul ou accompagné de son groupe Radiohead. Il vient de composer la bande originale de Suspiria, variation sur le chef-d'œuvre de Dario Argento, en salle le 14 novembre et on est sous le charme. Bonjour Thom Yorke.
Bonjour, ça va?
Ça va très bien, merci beaucoup d'être là. Est-ce que vous vous souvenez de la première fois que vous avez été envoûté par une chanson, de la première fois qu'une chanson vous a, comme qui dirait, jeté un sort?
That's so weird that you say that. This morning on the radio, this is going to sound really embarrassing, but never mind. When I was 9 years old, I was at a little like kids disco thing, a school disco. We went on a trip somewhere, and at the end of the week, they had a little school disco, and they played the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin.
Wow.
And it completely blew my mind because it's like listening to Ghosts, you know, the song. I read about it years later that they just installed like a huge reverb plate in Abbey Road, and the Moody Blues, I think, were the first band to use it, and they did all this crazy vocal stuff, like very speed vocal stuff. Anyway, that absolutely cast a spell on me. It stayed with me, and like I listened to it on repeat this morning about 5 times. It's so magic, and it's not just what he's saying, it's not just the song, it's the sounds, it's how it sounds.
Qu'est-ce que la musique, au fond, a à voir avec la magie, pour vous?
Probably when you record, what you should be looking for is something more than the elements in which you have in your hands, right? So if you're recording Chopin and you recording a performance of it, you're not sitting there thinking, are all the notes in the right place? Is this a good technical performance? What you should be thinking about is this taking me to somewhere new? Is this taking me to a different place? So that's the essence of all recording for me, is that. Is it more than what it says on the page? Is it more than what you technically want? Are you coming the other side of the wall? Are you making a hole in the wall? Are you opening up? So that to me is a magic in a good way.
Ça veut dire, Thom Yorke, que le musicien est une sorte de magicien, pour ne pas dire, et je pèse mes mots, une sorte de sorcier. Quel genre de sorcier est-ce que vous êtes?
It is odd. Occasionally, I think about it. I was 50 last week, and I now realize that I have spent more than half of my life trying to transport myself and other people beyond day-to-day existence by creating music.
Et le groupe Goblin, à qui l'on doit la musique originale du film Suspiria de Dario Argento, quel sorcier était-il pour vous?
I love Goblin stuff, but I didn't want to refer to it at all, because what Luca gave me in terms of the script when we first started was so different from the original film, and the way that they put the soundtrack together with Dario was so intense. I sort of really wanted to go the opposite way, you know. Although one of the things I loved about the original was this weird sense of repetition to the point where you feel ill, you know. One of the big no-nos in music is like repeat the same line again and again and again and again and again for no reason, you know, and that automatically makes you feel uncomfortable. So I did a lot of that because I didn't want to do what I loved about the original score was the fact that it wasn't in any way a horror movie score.
Vous vous souvenez des images précisément qui vous venaient à l'esprit lorsque vous l'écoutiez, cette bande originale? Parce qu'après tout, il s'agit de cinéma.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because with that film, because Dario was essentially involved, if I've got this right, he was involved when they recorded the soundtrack. I think you get a sense when you listen to it that all those crazy colours that are in the film are in the music. And it seems odd to talk about a horror film about colour, but to me, the thing that strikes me the most about the original Suspiria is the colour.
Le rouge.
Almost pink. And then it was what's so cool about, when Luca did it, he was like, drain all the colours out of everything, suck all the colour out.
Alors vous savez quoi, on va laisser la musique faire son travail, Thom Yorke. J'invite tous les auditeurs à fermer les yeux un instant pour écouter votre version de Suspiria et se laisser gagner par leurs propres images. Thom Yorke, c'est la première fois que vous composez la musique d'un film, le fait que ce soit une commande. Est-ce que ça a changé quelque chose à votre manière d'aborder le travail de composition?
Well, I mean, lots of things were different. Almost everything was different. First, I'm working to commission. So someone says, we need a Sabbath. Shall I try and do an Italian accent? No. We need a Sabbath, darling, in German. What? Are you serious? Yes. Okay. So things like that, things I would never normally choose to do. And so I have to find a way within my own musical limitations of doing them. Never experienced that before.
Ça veut dire faire des recherches?
Sometimes I didn't even have time. So I had to just do like an impression from the back of my mind.
Alors quels sons, quels effets est-ce que vous êtes allé chercher précisément?
Well, that was, I think, one of the reasons I agreed to do it in the first place was I'd just built a studio of my own very badly, according to Nigel. And I wanted an excuse to experiment. And I'd been listening to quite a lot of modern, really experimental music, electronic mostly, composers, modern composers. I'm also listening to Pierre Henry and Stockhausen. And it was like an excuse to combine the two things and get into modular synthesis, which unfortunately I am now addicted to.
Suspiria, il faut le rappeler pour ceux qui ont la chance de ne pas encore avoir vu sa première version, c'est l'histoire d'une jeune ballerine américaine qui intègre une prestigieuse école de danse en Allemagne. Alors évidemment, cette école est le théâtre d'étranges et sanguinaires incidents qui pourraient bien être des actes de sorcellerie. Et évidemment, une histoire comme celle-ci est toujours sujette à 1000 interprétations. Quelle lecture est-ce que vous en faites, vous, de cette histoire qui fait peur, de ce conte, Thom Yorke?
Ah, interesting. Well, Luca's version of it was a little bit more about the time that it was in, a little bit more about female energy in a different way than the original. And the things I identified with were the concepts of ritual and dance as a form of not just expression but collective thought, which is something I guess I didn't realize I found fascinating, but I do find fascinating. I am a terrible dancer, but I love dance, and I love the relationship between music and dance. And I think our culture, generally speaking, has a very dim opinion of ritual, because we've all grown up with concept of ritual being a religious concept, therefore outdated, therefore has the connotations of the corruptions of religion, generally speaking. But I don't necessarily feel like that. I think that ritual is a very important part of life and is being lost. On the other side of what I identified with was that period in 1977 in Berlin, and I am 50 and I grew up in that period. I remember a lot of how that feels from where I was as a kid in England, and I remember growing up under Margaret Thatcher. I remember the Berlin Wall falling down and my friends going there to celebrate it. I remember many things and many possibilities that generation and the generation before in 77 felt about how you could change things, the concept of political resistance, good and bad, but it was something that we live with every day of our lives. So I don't know why, but as a mirror to where we are now, I thought it was kind of fascinating, because now we having that concept of the people on the streets can change things, that's being taken away from us, removed from us, and I find it really dangerous. And I hope that maybe part of the story of the movie is just a gentle reminder of these things. You know, there's a speech that Tilda makes as her character Madame Blanc at one point, where you don't remember the war, you don't remember how it was, and blah blah blah. And now I'm in a British society that is choosing to walk away from the institutions of Europe that were built to protect us from ever going back to a situation where we were at war again. There's a collective amnesia, and weirdly, that, I mean, it sounds ridiculous. It's a soundtrack to a song, a film about witches, but it's something that really stuck with me when I was making the music.
C'est passionnant et ça nous emmène à la peur, Thom. Quelle émotion est-ce que c'est pour vous, la peur? Quel sentiment est-ce que c'est en tant qu'artiste?
Depends what sort of fear you mean. In the film, I think what I found I was exploring a lot when I was writing the music was a fear of death, a fear of pain, a fear of darkness. All completely normal, completely natural human things. But you know what they're doing, essentially, the characters in the film, is they're trying to cheat death. They're trying to be reborn, you know. The fear of what comes next. I mean, fundamental stuff that we spend our lives outside this hotel in London, busy, running in fear of what is right in front of us, is our imminent death. You know, we all... so you asked me a question, what's fear do to me? Is like, I think probably, I mean, as any good artist, I think death is something that is there every day in what you do, fear of death.
Celle qui nous fait peur dans cette émission, c'est la culture et son actualité horrifique, horrifiante, horrible et horrifiée. Que se passe-t-il donc aujourd'hui? Thom Yorke, leader, on le rappelle, du groupe Radiohead, invité de Boomerang ce matin pour la sortie de la bande originale de Suspiria. Et il se trouve que début octobre, c'était l'anniversaire des 18 ans de la parution d'un de vos albums, Kid A. Quel tournant musical est-ce que ça a été, ce disque qui a beaucoup décontenancé à sa sortie?
It was a weird... I remember, if you talk about the release, I remember being in New York when it was released, and sitting with this guy from Rolling Stone, who's a great journalist, really, and we're sitting in Central Park, and it had just gone to #1, and I'm sort of really excited and completely confused, because, you know, we'd spent like a year and a half more going absolutely fucking crazy in the studio, producing. It had stopped just being about making a record.
Ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que c'est aussi un tournant électronique pour Radiohead. Pourquoi c'était si difficile à assumer? Vous qui aimez la musique électronique, vous venez de le dire.
Well, I don't think it was really... I've never understood the electronic thing. I mean, yes, I was listening to different music. I was like... The other side of me was like, I couldn't suppress it anymore. The stuff I loved about electronic music, I didn't understand why we couldn't incorporate it into a band collective, creative thing. It was difficult, but, you know, what was the best thing about that period was we were making a record, in fact 2 records. We had 2 studios functioning at the same time. We had a place where Stanley was creating all this artwork, all in this building, all this stuff going off all at the same time, and then we were creating little videos. You know, it was like we were creating an accumulation of ideas, and the reason that it was so powerful was not particularly that we'd chosen to go electronic, so-called, but more that we refused to follow up what we should do. It was just not possible. There was no way it was going to happen anyway, even though it was difficult. There was no way we were going to make another band playing in a room record. It wasn't going to happen. So it was a breakdown of that idea. But all it actually was us building our own studio, creating our own workspace, and finding a new way to work, which was free and still at the same time anticipated by people. So there was a sort of certain excitement in that, which I know might sound kind of indulgent, but it wasn't. For me, it was like, the record company came to us at one point and said, we want to do TV adverts, and we want to just put the cover of the record on. And I say to them, no. With me and Stanley, we're like, no, we're going to go and commission our own little videos. With the video commissioner, we're going to go and talk to people. And we created all these like little videos, 15 seconds, way before like Instagram and stuff. And we said, here we go, there's your TV advert. And they say, but it doesn't say Kid A on it. And we're like, yeah, and? So it was like that. Lots of like, we had this huge corporate EMI, and they just let us do all this crazy shit.
Et cette créativité, cette inventivité, cette liberté, c'est l'identité de ce groupe Radiohead pour ceux et celles qui ne s'en souviendraient pas juste pour le plaisir. Radiohead, c'est ça. C'est étonnant, Thom Yorke, parce qu'en réécoutant ces titres, on se rend compte que vous avez toujours dit quelque chose du malaise de notre époque. Et du coup, je vous pose la question, dans quelle époque est-ce que vous avez l'impression de vivre aujourd'hui, en 2018
I think, I'm not sure if this will come across in the music I'm making, but there's a form of anger, like a new type of anger. And it's because we don't feel safe anymore.
Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire faire de la musique dans ce monde alors?
This is the fucking thing. It's like, I think half the reason we're angry is there's no form of expression for our anger. Like animals, there's no outlet. Like, if we're subjected to the algorithms of fucking Spotify, I mean, that's not going to give us a representation of the anger we feel about the situation in our lives, the lack of stability over our jobs, the inability to pay our fucking mortgage. If music isn't expressing this to you, the whole point of art is it should be expressing, it should be an outlet, a form of a way of saying these things. And I don't really believe that that's happening. To me, the most exciting music is music where they're just breaking up ideas of chorus, melody. Electronic music where they're like, it's almost like it's just mathematics, or, it's just noise, and the reason that's exciting is not because it's indulgent, but because sweet melodies and authentic words and people singing really quietly into the microphone about how difficult their life is, which I'm sorry I used to do, is fucking boring, and auto-tuned, quantized, it's fucking boring, and I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done with it,
En tout cas, à vous entendre, faire de la musique, c'est une résistance à un sentiment d'impuissance. Ça l'a toujours été et ça l'est encore.
It always has been. Yes, it's probably not healthy, but yes, it always has been.
En tout cas, votre dimension, cette dimension d'engagement, j'ai l'impression qu'elle est présente dès vos débuts. Votre premier groupe, c'était un groupe de punk, vous aviez 13 ans. Quelles étaient vos revendications, vos inquiétudes à l'époque?
Was it punk? Yeah, maybe it was punk. It was lots of things. I mean, like, I started talking about the Moody Blues at the beginning, so...
Pas très punk.
That ain't punk. I don't know. I mean, I always thought Bohemian Rhapsody was a punk record, but what do I know?
C'était punk à l'époque, Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think so, because it was just fucking out there. Even though it was professional, it was like very sophisticatedly put together, it was still like out there.
C'était de la liberté.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I think the punk thing for me was always just the anger of it. But then, of course, if anger becomes a formula, it's no longer anger, it's a formula.
Quel genre d'ado est-ce que vous étiez?
Quiet.
Je vous pose la question parce que Suspiria, c'est aussi un film qui nous dit quelque chose de l'adolescence et de la fin d'une certaine innocence. Quand est-ce que vous l'avez perdu, Thom Yorke, votre innocence, vous?
Oh my God. When did I lose my innocence? Probably the first day I started at Abingdon School. Got into a fight in the first 10 minutes.
On va reparler d'innocence, mais aussi et surtout de musique, juste après Suspirium, la chanson phare de ce disque que l'on écoute non sans délice. Vous êtes sur France Inter avec Thom Yorke. Vous écoutez Boomerang. Quelque part entre Harry Potter, le maître Jedi, et un elfe dans Le Seigneur des Anneaux, avec ses cheveux longs, vous savez, au reflet roux, tirés en arrière, bien attachés sur un bonnet blanc, son visage anguleux, son regard un brin étrange, ses yeux tout bleus. Il a un t-shirt où il est écrit en lettres rouges « Spiritual Noise », le bruit spirituel, à moins que ce soit deux mots. Thom Yorke, du groupe Radiohead, invité de Boomerang ce matin à l'occasion de la sortie de Suspiria, ce film réalisé par Luca Guadagnino, qui est une variation sur le chef-d'œuvre de Dario Argento. Et j'aimerais qu'on parle un petit peu de votre voix, si reconnaissable, qui semble ne pas avoir changé en 30 ans. Thom, quand est-ce que vous avez su que vous pouviez chanter, que vous aviez une voix?
It only happened because I couldn't find anyone else to sing originally. And then probably I discovered I had a voice when I was finishing school. I borrowed a friend of mine's 4-track machine and I made a demo over 2 or 3 months. And in the course of recording the vocals for it, I found that I really enjoyed it. And I think when you first start recording vocals, you it's really uncomfortable. It's like seeing yourself naked in the mirror for the first time. You're like, oh no, really? That's what I look like?
Quel genre de courage est-ce qu'il faut pour chanter?
Interesting. I mean, my daughter, for example, she never stops singing. She just does. I find it's kind of weirdly the most at peace I ever am is when I'm singing. So I don't really think it takes me courage. It takes me courage to make myself vulnerable. If you walk on a stage, you make yourself emotionally vulnerable. But the singing part of it is just a physical extension of me standing on the stage. You know, I don't, except if I'm ill, in which case it's a nightmare, then I'm conscious of the fact that I'm singing because I'm trying to figure out a way of singing because I technically can't because I'm ill. The rest of the time it's just, I mean, ideally, if it's going well, it's an entirely purely physical sensation.
Et c'est assez fascinant de vous regarder chanter, Thom, parce qu'il y a toujours quelque chose qui se passe dans votre corps, une sorte de mouvement, de frisson, une sorte de circuit électrique. Qu'est-ce qui se passe dans votre corps quand vous chantez?
I don't know, mate. I watch the videos back and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
C'est une sorte de transe.
Yeah, honestly, it's very odd. I mean, I try not to watch myself performing because I don't want to become self-conscious about it, but every now and again I do and I'm like, right, okay.
On parlait de la danse tout à l'heure, la danse qui est si présente dans Suspiria. Quel domaine d'expression artistique est-ce que c'est pour vous?
Well, I mean, I know nothing about it, but I think it's a really, you know, for me it's a really pure form of expression, maybe the most pure form of expression, and I think that's one of the reasons I was attracted to the film, really. The choreographer Damien was an amazing guy, and I really loved the sort of stuff he was making with the dancers. And I've worked with Wayne, who's Wayne McGregor, who's the most amazing choreographer. Weirdly, that was Phil. Phil in Radiohead is really into modern dance. It was him that hooked us up, and I'm a terrible dancer, but I love it. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And I did once do a video with Wayne for a song of mine, and it was the most terrifying experience because Wayne is standing in front of us and he's like, okay, now you need to do this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, now we record. I'm like, I'm fucking not ready yet. It was one of those things where like, okay, so I'm not a dancer. That's fine.
Mais il y a aussi quand même chez vous la culture de l'électro, la culture du clubbing qui est si importante dans votre travail.
Absolutely, yeah. I grew up with it. You know, I grew up in that weird period where maybe it was because I started DJing. I'm not quite sure. I think it probably was actually. But when I was at college, I started DJing, and initially when I was DJing, I was playing like funk and punk and like guitar music, and then I started picking up on the stuff that was coming out, the Detroit stuff, and I started picking up on the early stuff that was coming up on Warp, on the early 12 inches on Warp. And while I was DJing, the stuff that sounded fucking amazing out of the speakers was always the dance music, you know, because there was a purely physical thing that happened in the room, which not necessarily translated in the same way with, you know, if you put on a Pogues record, it's fun and everything, or if you put on the Stooges, it sounds really great and it's really exciting, but it doesn't do the same thing as putting on Per Clonk or Nightmares on Wax, which after everyone's had a few drinks or done whatever the fuck they've done, you put that on at the end of the night, the place goes nuts and they don't even know why, you know. And that was what really turned me on to it. I think it was that physical sensation of putting the vinyl on and the speakers making the room shake in a certain way, and it's just sort of stayed with me forever.
Quel genre de danse est-ce que vous imaginez pour Suspirium, le morceau qu'on vient juste d'entendre?
Oh, for that one, I've always wanted, well, I mean, I guess it won't happen, but because of the melancholy in that song, I always imagined, because it was not written for a dance piece in the film, it was like a prelude in a way. I always have an image in my mind of old ladies, like elegant, beautifully dressed, really fucking stylish, you know, dressed dancing very slowly in a room alone with nobody watching. Yeah.
Comme dans un rêve ou dans un cauchemar?
No, in pure joy.
Des cauchemars, ça vous arrive d'en faire?
Yes, I do.
Parle de quoi?
The worst ones are in a basement of a house, and there's stuff going on. I'm living there, but nobody knows I'm living there, and I'm trying to draw attention to the fact I'm living there, but nobody's paying attention. And then at some point they all leave, but they've left all their stuff there, and I walk around and I think, okay, I've got the house back now, but I know they're coming back.
Ça se produira jamais.
I don't know, maybe it's already happened, I don't know.
Merci infiniment, Thom Yorke, d'être venu faire un tour dans Boomerang. Je rappelle que la bande originale de Suspiria de Luca Guadagnino vient de paraître, que le film sera en salle le 14 novembre. Du frisson, de la beauté, de l'ensorcellement à vous faire défaillir. C'était formidable de vous avoir aujourd'hui dans cette émission. Tout de suite, les médias, Sonia De Villers, juste après ça.